Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. When Qin Mu came to the smithy, he saw Xu Shenghua with an apron. This was to prevent sparks from burning his clothes. However, his originally bright robe had long become similar to a rag cloth. He was forging a hairpin and had hammered the black gold 1,000 times. He hammered it into the thinnest gold paper before folding it to finally forge the shape of the hairpin. An accessory forged with this method would have the finest vein lines and be what the upper-class women loved the most. As a matter of fact, Xu Shenghua had made himself quite a reputation in the blacksmith circle of the capital. There were quite a number of divine arts practitioners of Six Directions realm who had come to find him to forge spirit weapons. There were also quite a number of nobles who wanted strange weapons like hairpins and bracelets. Divine arts practitioners of Six Directions realm required a forging expert to forge the spirit weapon they had given birth to in their divine treasure, thus the ability of the forging master was very important. Xu Shenghua was very clever and could forge all kinds of spirit weapons well. His technique and divine arts had myriad changes, and he could forge spirit weapons which were compatible with the divine arts practitioners. Human Emperor Qin, take a seat in the shop first, I'll come over once I'm done with the hairpin. Xu Shenghua saw him coming and shouted into the shop, Yangzi, Human Emperor is here, help me attend to him first. Qin Mu walked into the ship and smiled. It's fine just calling me Cult Master. When you call me Human Emperor, it just keeps reminding me that you and I are enemies. Jing Yang wore the clothes of a village girl, having replaced the gorgeous and elegant clothes she had come with from high heavens. She carried a pot of tea and invited Qin Mu to take a seat. The tea was plain. When Xu Shenghua and Qin Mu had met for the first time, he had served him with the best tea in high heavens, and it had been the best tea Qin Mu had drunk. It was called Green Destiny. Yet what he was served at that moment was the most ordinary tea. There's no more good tea. Cult Master Qin, please forgive us. Jing Yang blushed with shame and poured the tea for him. We have finished Green Destiny tea last month, she said in a low voice. Qin Mu took a sip and said, I'm also used to plain tea. How did you buy this shop? Young Master had originally bought a house in the capital, so we sold it to buy this shop. Jing Yang then added, Sister Yu Liu couldn't get used to this kind of hardship, so she found an excuse to leave and return to high heavens, only I'm left to stay with young Master. Qin Mu invited her to take a seat as well. He smiled and said, You're a good maiden. Xu Shenghua lifted the curtain and walked in with a towel in his hands, having just washed his hands. He hung the towel behind the curtain and came to the table to sit down, pouring a cup of tea for himself. He drank it in one gulp and poured another cup for himself. Jing Yang wanted to stand up, but Xu Shenghua waved his hand and said, There are no rules here. You are the mistress of our smithy, so just take a seat. Jing Yang could only remain seated after such words. Qin Mu's gaze flickered and he smiled. Brother Xu, how's your daily life? Xu Shenghua sighed and shook his head. It's not too good, but it's very fulfilling. I never knew it was so hard to earn money, since I had never had to worry about money in high heavens. But now, I actually know how great is the worth of a great abundance coin. Brother Qin, you paid a great abundance coin for 10 bowls of noodles, truly a waste, it's more than enough to buy 100 bowls of noodles. Qin Mu looked at him blankly and said, I'm also not sure about how much a great abundance coin is worth. I rarely lacked money, so I usually pay with a great abundance coin when I go out to eat. You have never been poor before. Xu Shenghua drank a few more cups of tea and let out a shaky breath. He said, The money I've earned during these days is still not enough, give me some more time. I should be able to pay you in about 2 years' time. Qin Mu smiled and said, It's small money, so I'm not in a hurry. Linger will keep it in mind better than me. I'm here to invite you to observe the ceremony, Sunshot Divine Cannon is already done. Xu Shenghua was stunned for a moment, then sighed. You used 2 months to design and build a divine cannon, yet I could only forge spirit weapons in this smithy. 15 days ago, I had felt you starting the furnace twice. You should have been testing the cannon's frame, right? That's right. Qin Mu drank the tea in his cup in one gulp and said, I used the power of the entire empire to forge that sunshot divine cannon and didn't charge for it as I had no lack of money. If I charged, even the emperor wouldn't have been able to pay me. Let's go and take a look. Xu Shenghua stood up and removed the apron. He said to Jing Yang, follow me as well. Jing Yang agreed and the three of them walked out of the smithy and headed for the outskirts. When they reached their goal, they saw a large spirit weapon that covered an area of 66 hectares. The eyeball in the center of the huge cannon battery had been forged and floated between the light-gathering forks. Hundreds of divine arts practitioners were on the cannon battery measuring something busily. The three of them walked to the front. Xu Shenghua and Jing Yang were full of astonishment as they raised their heads to look at the humongous object. It was very hard to imagine how Qin Mu had only used 2 months and more to forge that kind of terrifying spirit weapon. Of course, it wasn't the work of Qin Mu alone. Instead, it was the fruit of all the algebra experts and forging masters of all Eternal Peace Empire putting their wisdom together. Even if among them, Qin Mu's contribution was the greatest. If it wasn't for his design and him improving the craft of forging, it would have been impossible for the forging standard of Eternal Peace Empire to create such a heaven-defying treasure. Qin Mu had pushed the Eternal Peace Empire's craft of forging forward by 100 years. The emperor and the civil and military officials had all arrived. There were also high officials and nobles from the capital as well as the commoners gathered around to look at the sunshot divine cannon starting up. Even village chief, Hermit Qingyu, and the rest of the people hurried over to see the divine cannon fire. Pill furnace inspection normal. No cracks found, an official from Ministry of Works shouted out loudly. Formation markings inspection normal. No break-in connection found. Runes inspection normal. Cannon's frame inspection normal. Light gathering forks inspection normal. Divine eye inspection normal. Voices rang one after another, and Shan Yushin looked at Qin Mu who kept nodding his head. Shan Yushin said loudly, Number 1 pill furnace ignited, strength test, maximum firepower. After a moment, an apothecary beside the pill furnace shouted, Number 1 pill furnace at maximum firepower, results are normal. Number 2 pill furnace ignite for test. Number 2 pill furnace at maximum firepower, results are normal. Xu Shenghua looked at this kind of test method and was instantly stunned. He muttered, Cult Master Qin, when will I ever reach your standard in the craft of forging? My smithy is simply too shabby. Qin Mu swiftly consoled him. Don't worry, everyone comes to the top step by step. I also had my bad days. Really? Xu Shenghua asked suspiciously. Qin Mu thought and shook his head, no. Not long after I left the village, I had already become renowned in the world. Xu Shenghua was silent for a moment, then said, Cult Master Qin, you will be beaten to death sooner or later if you keep consoling people like this. However, when I was at the village, I picked up the iron hammer when I was 5 and I learned painting from Grandpa Deaf. Qin Mu had an indifferent expression. You only picked up the iron hammer and do not know how much hard work I put in it over the 10 years. Xu Shenghua nodded and said, Overlord body is not something that can achieve success without hard work. I've benefited from your advice. Finally, the 56 furnaces were at maximum firepower. Instantly, all the runes on the base of Sunshot Divine Cannon lit up, and all of the formations were activated. The huge cannon battery gradually rose into the sky, and waves of terrifying power bloomed, shaking the space around continuously. The energy in 56 pill furnaces flooded frantically toward the light-gathering forks and through them they transformed into 4 thick beams that tunneled into the center of the huge divine eye. Sounds of gears rotating came from the inside of the divine eye, their speed becoming faster and faster. Suddenly, the sound vanished and the 240 yards divine eye seemed to turn into void. All kinds of formations in it were activated one after another, and the black gold, black iron, divine gold, and other divine materials used to form it all vanished. They were all replaced by a divine eye bathed in divine light. The eye was closed. GRRK. The huge eye rotated on top of the cannon battery, and the sound of wind that it brought with it was scary. But the throbbing from the eye was even more terrifying. Even the strong practitioners of the cult master level felt fear in their hearts. Cult Master Qin. Shan Yushin bowed toward Qin Mu while standing on the cannon battery. The preparations for Sunshot Divine Cannon are done. Qin Mu rose and said to Emperor Yangfeng, Your Majesty, please. Emperor Yangfeng took in a deep breath and led all the civil and military officials to fly up onto the cannon battery. He said solemnly, Supervisor Qin, you have been busy for the past 2 months, so you should be the one to fire this shot. Qin Mu acknowledged his words, and Shan Yushin brought over a jade plate. Qin Mu executed his vital qi, and the jade plate burst forth with dazzling lights. The rays shone and transformed into a light screen that was 3 feet wide. It showed the sight of the surroundings. Qin Mu gently touched the screen shown by the jade plate, and the divine eye of Sunshot Divine Cannon rotated with this move. Qin Mu adjusted the direction of the divine eye to aim at the sky. He tapped on the jade plate, and the eye opened suddenly, ripping the world above apart. The sky trembled violently as a tear was opened up. Everyone instantly saw a black mark spread above, which tore the sky open. In the meantime, the beam of light vanished without a trace. After a moment, a rumbling came from beyond the sky. It sounded like 10,000 thunders booming at once. A huge tear appeared in the sky, a void within it. Sometime later, it started to slowly heal. Xu Shenghua's heart became heavier and heavier. No one in high heavens could be able to hold against such a cannon. Even if it was his master Jade Sovereign or the other 3 sovereigns, none of them would be able to survive the attack from Sunshot Divine Cannon. This kind of weapon was no longer a weapon of the mortal world. It was a weapon to slaughter gods. My money is not wasted. Emperor Yangfeng looked at the sky that was slowly healing and muttered, Imperial Preceptor, it's a pity you are not here to see this sight. In the prairie, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was bringing the army back to eternal peace when he suddenly raised his head to see a tear in the sky. His heart trembled violently. Cult Master Qin, you have finally completed the weapon to slaughter gods. On the cannon battery, Qin Mu dispersed his vital qi, and the light screen from the jade plate vanished. The pill furnaces were also extinguished one by one, which caused the formations to stop operating. The huge Sunshot Divine Cannon gradually descended from the sky. Qin Mu raised his head to look above and muttered to himself, since it's called Sunshot Divine Cannon, should I shoot at the sun once? Everyone around him shuddered, and Emperor Yangfeng hurriedly snatched the jade plate from his hands while shouting, Supervisor Qin, if the sun was destroyed by your shot, how would the people survive? Your idea is too dangerous, off with your head. A contrarian among the civil and military officials immediately said, Your Majesty, a ruler doesn't go back on his words. Emperor Yangfeng turned his head to look at him before waving a hand and saying, I will certainly go back on my words. But since you can't see the need for it, why should I keep you? Retire and return home. Dear Minister Qin, how do I use this jade plate? Activating Sunshot Divine Cannon required the jade plate in Qin Mu's hand. Since the battery was too large, it wasn't easy to control, so Qin Mu had created a tool to interact with it. The jade plate could then have the huge divine cannon shoot wherever he pointed. It was the central control of Sunshot Divine Cannon. Qin Mu taught Emperor Yangfeng how to use the jade plate, which was simple to learn and use. As a great master in forging, Qin Mu could simplify the most complicated things, and with just this point, he surpassed other great masters of forging by leaps and bounds. Emperor Yangfeng put away the circular plate. After a while, he took it out to play with it before putting it back again. Some time later, he took it out once more to fiddle with it again. Qin Mu said kindly, Your Majesty can try firing one shot. Emperor Yangfeng looked at him, then said unpleasantly, One shot and the treasury will be emptied. I'm not like you, spending money like flowing water. Hasn't the Crown Prince come back from the snow plains? He should have brought back quite a lot of treasure, Qin Mu said. But I also can't shoot randomly. The money in the imperial treasury can't be touched carelessly. There are many things to be done in the empire, and which of them don't need money? Emperor Yangfeng put away the jade plate, but after a moment, Qin Mu saw him taking it out again sneakily. He couldn't help shaking his head. If Emperor Yangfeng never fired a shot, he would definitely be unable to have a pleasant sleep. he would just keep thinking of doing it. However, his rationality would tell him that he couldn't misuse sunshot divine canon, so he would end up at a loss. Let him be, Qin Mu thought to himself. Suddenly, a couple officials from the Department of Sky Supervision carried over some thick scrolls. In their lead was Hua Shanling, who greeted Qin Mu and said, "Supervisor Qin, we at the Sky Supervision platform have noticed some peculiarity when you shot at the sky earlier. Supervisor has many algebra experts here, so I would like to invite Supervisor to help us calculate it." "What peculiarity?" Qin Mu asked with bewilderment. When the sky was torn, there was a change in the astronomical phenomenon. Hua Jingling of Department of Sky Supervision, who was at the side, then added, "The sky split open and the astronomical phenomenon in the sky shifted, returning back to normal only after the tear was healed. We recorded the shift in angles, but since our attainments in algebra aren't high, it's hard for us to calculate what happened. Lord Qin, please take a look, these are the previous star charts." He flipped open the star charts and went through them page by page. Qin Mu observed that the celestial bodies that Department of Sky Supervision had recorded each year had a regular pattern. Their changes were very minute. "This is the star chart after Lord Qin fired that cannon." Hua Jingling flipped to the last page and pointed at the star chart. After that cannon, the sky turned dark for an instant, and the armillary sphere recorded the celestial bodies in the sky. The sun had shifted 1.75 inches at the time, but when the tear recovered, the sun moved back. During the darkness, the other stars had also shifted. Meanwhile, at the location of the tear, there had been no stars at all. This is definitely not normal. In the tear, there should have been 107 stars. Qin Mu was still puzzled. Would it be because the power of the divine canon was too strong, causing distortion in vision which resulted in what looked like the shifting of celestial bodies? "There's this possibility," Hua Jingling said. However, Department of Sky Supervision uses an armillary sphere, which is a spirit weapon as well as a heavy spirit treasure. Our vision can be distorted, but the armillary sphere couldn't be tricked like that. The star chart on the armillary sphere moves together with the celestial bodies in the sky. If the star chart on the armillary sphere moved, it means that the stars in the sky had really moved. But the most crucial thing is, why were there no stars at the location of the tear? Qin Mu's heart stirred slightly, and he probed, "What you mean is?" The people looked at one another, and Hua Shanling coughed lightly. "Before doing any calculations, we at the Department of Sky Supervision don't dare to make any guesses and can't be responsible for anyone else's guesses. Please forgive us, Lord Qin. These fellows are mysterious." Qin Mu frowned and said, "The experts with me are mostly algebra experts of Dao Sect and Little Jade Capital. They are currently planning to leave and return to Dao Sect and Little Jade Capital. I don't dare to say if I can ask them to stay." Xu Shenghua walked up and said with excitement, "I also have some attainments in algebra." Qin Mu smiled and said, "It's naturally good for Brother Xu to come and help. I will go invite Dao Master Lin Xian and Wang Muren." Jin Yang immediately said, "Since my young master is helping, the 1,000 coins that we owed. Even if you don't help, I have no lack of algebra experts here." Qin Mu replied without even turning his head. Jin Yang's expression instantly turned black. "Miser. Yangzi, don't be angry. Actually, I would also like to know what had happened to the sky after Cult Master Qin fired off that shot. What he said isn't wrong as well, with or without our help. It changes nothing for him, it's just a matter of time," Xu Shenghua said. Qin Mu found Dao Master Lin Xian, Mu Qingdai, and the rest of the young experts. After gathering everyone, Wang Muren asked, "What is Cult Master calculating this time?" Qin Mu looked at Hua Jingling of Department of Sky Supervision, whose gaze was sparkling as he said, "An astronomical phenomenon." Dao Master Lin Xian smiled and said, "Astronomical phenomenon. Cult Master Qin had cultivated our Dao Sect's Dao Sword, and the fourth writing of Dao Sword is nothing else but an astronomical phenomenon. With him around, what use are we?" Qin Mu shook his head and said, "The fourth writing of Dao Sword calculates a normal astronomical phenomenon. What Department of Sky Supervision wants us to calculate is an abnormal one." Dao Master Lin Xian and the other Taoists became bewildered. There was a difference between a normal and an abnormal astronomical phenomenon? Hua Jingling explained the astronomical phenomenon his department had observed and said, the stars moving and the stars in the tier disappearing, this kind of astronomical phenomenon is definitely not normal. It's like the stars are hanging on a piece of curtain. Mu Qingdai blurted out. Hua Jingling clapped his hands and said, that's right. It's like they are all hanging on a piece of curtain. Lord Qin used the beam to tear apart this curtain, so the sun, moon and the stars split to both sides. All of the young people looked at one another with grim expressions. The astronomical phenomenon was hung in the sky? Xu Shenghua raised his head to look at the sky while composing himself. He asked, Cult Master Qin, what do you want us to calculate? According to the shift in stars caused by that beam, we will have to calculate the height and thickness of the sky. Qin Mu looked at the officials and asked, is that your intention? The officials of Department of Sky Supervision looked at each other and nodded. Lord Qin is wise, Hua Jingling said in a hoarse voice. In the past, we felt that the sky is boundless, and the thickness of the sky is also boundless. However, that beam from Lord Qin made us realize that there might be a limit to the height of the sky, and its thickness as well. The stars in the sky may not be as far away as we thought, and the sun seemed to also be. He didn't dare to continue saying. Qin Mu looked at everyone and said, what does everyone feel? They were all young people, so even though their origins were different, their inheritances were different, and even their factions and philosophies were different, they were all very curious. Every one of them looked up at the sky. Dao Master Lin Xian retracted his gaze and said, since Cult Master Qin's beam showed us that the sky has a height and thickness, why can't we calculate it? Everyone nodded in acknowledgement. We need to know the dates of the stars shifting in order to be able to calculate, Wang Muren said. My Department of Sky Supervision has recorded all the stars, including the sun, Hua Jingling said right away. This makes it much easier. Everyone immediately sprung to action, and after a long time, they calculated the numbers. When they looked at them, their faces became grim and dazed. I won't believe it. A Daoist from Dao sect suddenly got up and smashed his 8 trigrams on the ground, breaking them to pieces. He then again shouted out angrily, I won't believe it. When he was done, he left. The other algebra experts were silent. Long Yu muttered, this is impossible, we must have calculated wrongly, this is absolutely impossible. The minds of the Dao sect's experts had already crumbled, and they chuckled. We must have calculated wrongly, the sky cannot be so thin. It's definitely wrong. Hua Jingling said firmly. That's right, it's definitely wrong, many others chimed in. Xu Shenghua shook his head and said, it cannot be that so many of us had calculated wrongly, right? Everyone's numbers are the same, so the result is correct, the sky is this high and this thick. It's impossible. Impossible. Long Yu stumbled away in a daze. He was slightly crazy. Mu Qingdai was giddy. She squatted down on the ground, then sat down. Qin Mu looked at the numbers they had calculated and sunk into deep thought. The sky was 10,000 miles high, yet the thickness was only a pathetic 1,000 yards. This meant that in that thickness of 1,000 yards, there was a sun, a moon, a galaxy, and countless other stars. How is this possible? He. His mind had also slightly crumbled as he chuckled non-stop. He laughed till tears were almost pouring from his eyes as he sat down and slapped his knee repeatedly. Cult Master Qin, what are you laughing about? Dao Master Lin Xian shouted out while staring at him angrily. Abandoned people? Qin Mu laughed loudly and pointed at his nose, almost crying from laughter. You are an abandoned person. You are also an abandoned person. And you are all abandoned people. Everyone looked at him coldly as his finger pointed at every single one of them. When he finally pointed at Xu Shenghua, his laughter quelled and his face became terrifyingly cold. You are also an abandoned person. Xu Shenghua frowned. The sky was only this high and this thick. Not to say a sun, a moon, and many stars, not even a mountain could be put there. Yet there was a sun, a moon, and the galaxy above, so there was only one possibility. The resplendent stars, the blazing sun, the bright moon, and the galaxy that was filled with millions and millions of stars like a long river were all fake, they were all painted there. The sky was like a seal that sealed their world, showing them the sun, moon, stars, constellations, and the galaxy that were all fake. In great ruins, there was God-broken mountain range, all around which no sun could be seen. When it came to night time, the darkness invaded, so the stars and moon could never be seen either. The people of great ruins were the people abandoned by gods. However, the life forms in the whole world were the same as the abandoned people of great ruins, they were all abandoned people. Daoist Lin Xian suddenly shook his sleeves and said coldly, "I'm not an abandoned person. Disciples of Tao sect, let's go, return to the mountain." As he walked, tears suddenly filled his face. Tao follows the nature, follows the King fake nature. The young Tao master strained his throat as he bellowed at the sky, "All my effort in cultivating was used on King fake nature." Measuring out the height and thickness of the sky may have dealt a severe blow to Qin Mu and the rest, but Tao master Lin Xian had suffered the greatest blow. Tao sect's teachings, techniques, and divine arts were all built on the foundation of Tao follows the nature. To search for the essence of all living things through nature was the origin of their techniques, divine arts, and even frame of mind. And then Tao master Lin Xian discovered that the astronomical phenomenon of nature was fake. With that kind of situation, it was no wonder his frame of mind would collapse. What kind of great Tao could be comprehended by comprehending a fake nature? The legs of Tao master Lin Xian, who was walking forward by himself, suddenly went soft and he knelt onto the ground with a thump. His expression was stupefied, and his eyes were blank. A few Taoists immediately went forward to help him up, only to hear their Tao master mutter, "The 14th writing of Tao sword had never been cultivated before, and master used his whole life to comprehend it, only then was his talent and learning enough, but he still couldn't succeed in cultivating it." It turns out it was not that he couldn't do it, it was because all the nature is fake. How could he succeed in cultivating it if the nature he comprehended was fake? Cough, cough. He coughed violently and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. He was devastated. Tao follows the nature was the teaching of Tao sect, yet the nature was fake. The impact he received from learning this could be imagined. Qin Mu looked at Xu Shenghua and asked, "Is the sky in your high heavens the same as this sky?" Xu Shenghua raised his head to look at the sky before nodding. The same sky, the same stars, high heavens was no exception. Qin Mu saying that he was an abandoned person wasn't false at all. The sky was a cage, and no matter if it was high heavens or great ruins, they were all birds that didn't know they were in a cage. Qin Mu composed his heart and walked to Tao master Lin Xian's side to help him up. He said in a low voice, "The truth is cold and hard to accept, so it's best to not make it public. Chase after the few Taoists that had run away and don't let them talk nonsense. You need to protect some of their hope." Tao master Lin Xian looked at him, straight in the eyes, with a weird expression. He asked in a hoarse voice, "Do you think people will believe what they say?" Qin Mu smiled and said, "People will believe you. You are asking me not to say." Tao master Lin Xian filled with scorn, and he chuckled. Our previous Tao masters and countless other Taoists had all wanted to solve the 14th writing of Tao sword. They spent immeasurable effort comprehending the nature of heaven and earth, yet the 14th writing of Tao sect seemed to be an insurmountable peak, an impossible to solve conjecture. But in the end, it all comes to the astronomical phenomenon being wrong. He, how mocking, truly King mocking. Even though he was the Tao master of Tao sect, sacred ground, he was still a youth in his nature, so he couldn't help spitting out a few vulgarities. The previous Tao masters of Tao sect didn't know where the mistake was, so they couldn't succeed in cultivating the 14th sword, but now you know. Maybe Tao master Lin Xian can be the first person to succeed in cultivating the 14th sword. Qin Mu said meaningfully. Tao master Lin Xian's heart trembled slightly, and he turned to look at him. Crisis. Danger lies together with opportunity. The situation now is a danger and an opportunity at the same time. Qin Mu smiled and added, "Ordinary people can only see the danger, but wise people can see the opportunity that lies with the danger. However, only those with the abilities can be able to grasp this opportunity." Which kind of person is Tao master? Dao Master Lin Xian's chest heaved up and down. He'd seen that the sky was fake and the astronomical phenomenon was also fake earlier. That had halted the progress of Dao sect's path, skills, and divine arts, causing everyone to not be able to comprehend the final marvel of Dao sword. However, Qin Mu's words made him see the opportunity. Since he knew what was fake, he should go and see the real thing. In that case, there would be a possibility of cultivating the 14th writing of Dao's sword. I accept wholeheartedly you being the human emperor. Dao Master composed himself and said, I feel that the debate between the teachings of Dao sect and heavenly devil cult can finally be put to a rest. Qin Mu nodded. I was thinking the same thing. I think we can form an alliance, and when our abilities grow enough, we will be able to pierce through this sky. Wang Muren walked over and stretched out his palm while saying, Wang Muren of Little Jade Capital is willing to form an alliance with Human Emperor and Dao sect. Qin Mu and Daoist Lin Xian stretched out their palms as well. Qin Mu turned around to look at Xu Shenghua, who walked over and stretched out his palm as well. Xu Shenghua of High Heavens is willing to form an alliance with Human Emperor, Dao sect, and Little Jade Capital. Now, shouldn't our alliance have a name? Wang Muren smiled and said, Why don't we call it Heaven Alliance? The three of them said in unison, Great! Heaven Alliance it shall be. The four of them pulled back their palms, and Dao Master Lin Xian nodded to everyone before bringing all the experts of Dao sect to leave. Lord Qin, should we tell this to the Emperor? Hua Shanling went forward to ask with a low voice. Of course, the Emperor has to know, Qin Mu said. However, only tell the Emperor, don't spread it to others, be careful of your head falling off. Hua Shanling immediately nodded and called the other officials of Department of Sky Supervision before hurrying away. Wang Muren let out a shaky breath and said, Human Emperor, please forgive me, I will have to tell this to Senior Uncle Qing Yu. Qin Mu nodded and said, Immortal Qing Yu knows what to say and what not to say. Feel free to tell him. Senior sister, find senior brother Long Yu, I shall go find senior uncle. Wang Muren said to Mu Qingdai. The two of them then immediately split ways. This video will end here.